celebration of the life of David Robert Kennedy. And we're grateful to all of you here. And for those that were going to live stream with us today, we found the internet connection not to be quite good enough, so we're going to record it and post it. So if you know anybody who is planning on joining via YouTube today, you want to text them, that's what's going on. Well, you know, David has been such a good friend to all of us, and my name is Tim Herring, and I got to know Dave back in 1978. And so I've been with him for quite a long time. And I just want to start with saying, you know, that we're having a celebration of his life. You know, we mourn David. And in our mourning, we grieve, don't we? We grieve because David left a great big hole in our lives and a hole in our heart. And it seems to me that perhaps as we join together today to celebrate him, that just might be part of what is beginning to grow that hole back in for us. And so I'm going to start today by telling a story about David and a little bit about him. And I had so many of them I could tell. We had to pick one. So we'll start with this one. It was the January just following the wedding of David and Sean. And as was our pattern for several years prior to that, we were in an airplane flying to go on a guy's ski trip. Now, David is starting to show his salesmanship skills even then, saying, well, honey, I know we just got married, but I'm going to be taking this week-long trip without you and with a group of single guys to a ski resort. And so she had agreed and went to her parents' house to stay, at least for the beginning part of that trip. And there was a prerequisite, though, that when we land, a reasonable one, that he would give her a call and say, you know, I've landed safely. So we all as a group land in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and we transfer over to the lodge. And in this particular trip, Dave and I were rooming together. And we get up to the room and settle our stuff in, and he goes over to the phone. And for you younger folks in here, yes, there was a time before mobile phones. And he picks up the phone, and the phone doesn't work. So we go down to the lobby together and go to the front desk and say, hey, you know, our phone in our room doesn't work. And the person behind the desk says, well, yes, we know, in fact, none of them work. The phone system's down. Oh, okay, well, where's the closest phone we can go to so I can use the phone? No, you don't understand. It's out for the whole town of Jackson Hole. Well, how long? Well, they don't know for sure. They're promising it's going to come up, but sometime soon. So by now, the rest of our group's together, and we decide, okay, let's eat. And so we head off to the grocery store, and we get these blocks of cheese, and a big wedge of brie, and some grapes, and crackers, and we get a big thing of salami, and some smoked salmon, and smoked oysters, and some Cabernet Sauvignon. We head back to the hotel, the lodge, and we start slicing all of this up. And we lay it out in this big platter, and we all head down to the lobby and sit in front of the fireplace with our big platter of food and sipping on our Cabernet Sauvignon. Well, hotel guests are coming by and expressing their envy with us. And Dave is periodically going to the front desk. Is the phone up system yet? Sorry, no, not yet. And so we start sharing with one another about, you know, what the last year had been in our lives. And I'm not sure what it was that stimulated this, but our conversation began to transfer into Einstein's theory of relativity, E equals mc squared. And we're discussing mass and force and time and the relationships between those things. And we have this big discussion. Well, about the time the Cabernet is running out and it's good time to go, Mr. Kennedy, the phone system is back up. So Dave and I go up to the room together, and now I'm hearing the conversation just one side of it. So I'm going to imagine and perhaps embellish what Sean might have been saying on the other end. Hi, honey, how are you? Where have you been? I've been at my parents' house waiting for your phone call. You're late. Well, the phone system was down. That's what you're going to go with, the phone system. No, really, it was. Well, then why didn't you go somewhere else and get on a phone? Well, it was down for the whole time, the whole town. Okay, that's really all right. And so, were you guys at the bar? No, we got this food. We got blocks of cheese, and we got fruit and vegetables, and all this stuff, and we sliced it up on this big platter, and we put it out, and we sat in front of the fire and sipped on Cabernet Sauvignon. There must be girls. What's going on here? Guys are slicing up this platter of stuff? No, really, that's what we did. And so, what did you guys do? Well, we talked. Guys, you sat and talked in front of the fire with David, come on. No, really, what did you talk about? Einstein's theory. All right, David, I've had this conversation. Talk to you later. So David looks over at me and goes, I've got some work to do. Well, and work they did, because as you know, David and Sean have established a very loving marriage and relationship, and one that was built on trust and respect. And these foundations gave them something that was able to weather all the forces of planet Earth that work to break down marriages. And so they had a very strong marriage. And you know, our guys trips continued on too, and year after year. But you know, they started out as all about the skiing. And we were up at first chair in the morning and skiing until last chair. And at night we would regale ourselves with stories of how who beat who on the race course and what jumps we did and who took the biggest crash. You know, as time went on, and now we've got kids, and we're talking about, you know, our toddlers, and then middle school, and high school, and sporting events, college, and the different things that go on there. And we talked about our careers and the challenges and the upsides to what was going on in our careers. And we talked about, you know, finances and planning for the future. And we had some very good discussions. And you know, we started getting up a little bit later and coming in a little bit earlier. But we kept on with our food and preparing food and setting the table and cooking and cleaning and doing things for each other. And even then we started to, you know, sit at dinner and pray before our food. And oftentimes, and mostly led by David. And so these trips became, you know, pretty darn important to us. But it wasn't just that. You know, Dave was a big leader in making those things happen. And so, you know, Dave's, I think it was probably less than 2 weeks before his passing, I got a chance to come and meet with Dave. And it gave me a chance to talk to him about how important he had been in my life and the way he had influenced it over the years, dating back to seeing him in college. And you know, we spent an hour together, and that was pretty exhausting to him. And by the end, his eyes were closed, and I was still talking with him. And I said, you know, Dave, you have recently written that for all of us, kind of a message of you don't need to worry, because I know Jesus, and I'm going to be in heaven, so don't worry. And he said, yes, that's true. He said, I believe that. I'm going to see my dad there. And I said, well, Dave, I need to go now, but can I pray for you? His eyes opened, and he looked at me and he said, no. And he reached out and grabbed my hand and said, but you can pray with me. And so we did. And you know, it just reminded me, if you think about probably the most famous or well-known passage of the Bible, John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that so whoever believes will not perish but have everlasting life. Well, I believe that was Dave's testimony based on what he had said. And so with that, I'm going to bring up Sean, and Sean's going to address you next.
Yes, thank you very much for being here. It meant the world to Dave to have this opportunity to gather everybody here with us. He was such a very good man, and I was blessed to have him in my life. I met David after moving to Sacramento, after I got my degree at Chico State. And our time overlapped in Chico, and we had best friends that ended up married, and we never met in Chico. It was only after I came to Sacramento. And I was just recovering from a very difficult breakup and really had no interest in dating. I was just kind of getting my life together. But my friend Mary kept saying, you gotta meet this guy, you gotta meet Kennedy. Sean, you just gotta meet this guy, Kennedy. And she kept bugging me, and so finally I'm like, okay, fine. We're down. So I agreed to go to Slammers game. It was David's baseball team at the time, and you can guess why they called themselves the Slammers. And he was on the team, and it was a home run from the very first time that we met. About a month later, less than a month later, I invited him to go to my sister Terry's wedding. And I'm introducing him to my family, and the first words out of my mom's mouth are, she will not be living with you. I was mortified. I was so but anybody that knows my mom couldn't see her say this. And Dave just smiled and said, of course not. About 3 months later, it was just after Christmas, and the house I was renting was burgled. And I didn't have very much of value, but everything that I had was stolen. And I called my parents to tell them what had happened, and the first words out of my mom's mouth were, you need to move in with David. And the following September, we moved out. If you have a chance to see some of the memorabilia on the back table, David chose all of the things that he wanted to have displayed, and you'll see some of David's calendars. He kept a calendar from 1983 to 2016, 33 years of calendars in his office. And I mean, nowadays, people would say, well, how long have you been married? And I'd look today because I didn't remember, and you always knew the answer. And as I was gathering the things for the table, I started looking through the calendar. I never had. They've been in the office for all these years, and I've never looked at them. And so I went back to the year that we met, and our first official date he had highlighted. And he noted things like the day that he met my Rottweiler buddy. He wrote everything down in those books. On December 23rd in 1989, there was a note, 3-month anniversary and 1 year since asking Sean to marry me. He would calendar my haircuts. Seriously. And all of his business meetings and thoughts and his plans, and one entry was, make 100 phone calls today. And in the back of the calendars, he would post pictures from the year of favorite events, a lot of pictures of the kids, a lot of pictures of me, and so his calendars were also kind of a photo album of his life and our life together. There's so many things and memories and thoughts that I want to share, and I could be here all day. Dave was a wonderful husband. He was loving and kind, and he took such good care of me. His schedule was a lot more flexible than mine, and when things needed to be taken care of, I'd say, we need to do whatever it was, and he knew that meant the royal we, and he jumped right on it. He loved being a father. He was so proud of Connor and Kira. Every Thanksgiving, though, we would all heave this collective sigh because he would start talking about the Christmas card picture. The picture had to have all 4 of us because he used to say, he sent out about 600 cards a year. He sent a card to the people at Mail and More. He sent a card to all of his colleagues and associates and friends, and so and we really would. Do I really have to be in the picture this year? And he used to say that we all had to be in the picture so that people would know that he wasn't making us up. David retired March 10th, and he had such plans. He was going to be the best house husband I'd ever seen, although I never really got an affirmative primitive that he would actually clean the stove tops, counters, or do the toilets. Never somebody to do that. He was going to work on my dad's 1969 Chevy El Camino 396 SS. It's a beautiful car. Oh, it's not so beautiful right now, and it's in the parking lot. And he was going to take it to Hot August nights. We were going to hike and bike and fish, and he was going to ski and travel. And he was really sad that he wasn't going to be able to do those things or have decades with family and friends. But he was so happy for the life that he had. He had family and friends who loved him and who he loved back. And I miss him more than words can say.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you. Well, I'd like to introduce Connor next. Connor, would you come up and say a few words?
So, it took me a long time to figure out what I was going to put together for this speech. I started by going through stories of my dad and figuring out, which ones I wanted to retell, but it didn't really seem to fit what I wanted to convey. Instead, I'd like to share something that I think will have the opportunity to resonate with everyone here. I can't take credit for writing these words myself, but I hope that they'll be able to most accurately portray what I think a lot of us and all of us are going through this experience. So I read this first piece shortly after we learned my dad's diagnosis, and I saved it knowing that someday soon I would be able to go back to it, and it would give me understanding, and I'd be able to really rely on these words. I wish I could say you get used to people dying. I never did. I don't want to. It tears a hole through me whenever somebody I love dies, no matter the circumstances. But I don't want it to not matter. I don't want it to be something that just passes. My scars are a testament to the love and the relationships that I had for and with that person. And if the scar is deep, so is the love. Scars are a testament to life, and that I can love deeply and live deeply and be cut, and that I can heal and continue to live and continue to love. As for grief, you'll find it comes in waves. When the ship is first wrecked, you're drowning with wreckage all around you. Everything floating around you reminds you of the beauty and the magnificence of the ship that was and is no more, and all you can do is float. You can find some piece of the wreckage and you hang on for a while. Maybe it's some physical thing. Maybe it's a happy memory or a photograph. Maybe it's a person who is also floating with you. For a while, all you can do is float and stay alive. In the beginning, the waves are 100 feet tall and crash over you without mercy. They come 10 seconds apart and don't give you enough time to catch your breath. And all you can do is hang on and float. After a while, maybe weeks, maybe months, you'll find the waves are still 100 feet tall, but they come further apart. When they come, they still crash over you and wipe you out, but in between you can breathe, you can function. You never know what's going to trigger the grief. It might be a song, a picture, or the smell of a cup of coffee. It can be just about anything. And when the wave comes crashing, but in between the waves, there is life. Somewhere down the line, and it's different for everybody, you find that the waves are only 80 feet tall, or 50 feet tall. And while they come, they again come further apart, and you can see them coming. Whether it's an anniversary, a birthday, or driving up the snow-covered Sierra Nevadas, you can see it, but this time you can prepare yourself. And when it washes over you, you know that somehow you will again come out the other side. Soaking wet, sputtering, still hanging on to some tiny piece of the wreckage, but you'll come out. Over time, the waves will never stop coming, but somehow you don't really want them to. These waves are the reminder of the love that we've shared with those we've lost. As each wave comes, we'll learn to survive them, and in the end, if we're lucky, we'll have lots of scars from lots of loves. The next piece is something that I actually just found last week. It came from an old journal a man's mother had written before her passing. These words really reminded me of my dad and his absolute joy for life and the values that I think he instilled in me and those around him. None of us are getting out of here alive, so do not treat yourself like an afterthought. Eat the delicious food, walk in the sun, jump in the ocean, and I think most of you can know that my dad didn't read that one. And say the truth you're carrying in your heart like a hidden treasure. Be silly, be kind, be weird. There's no time for anything else. While there is grief in life, there will always be joy. And there will always be those around you that love you. In remembering my father, I ask that you take 1 minute of every day to breathe the air, feel the sun on your face, and cherish every moment that my father would have wanted you all to experience. I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for taking the time to remember and share the love that you have for my father David, and I hope that his memory lives on within each of you.
Well said and done, Connor. All right, Kira, you ready?
Looking around today, I see some of what my dad has left behind in every single one of the people here. He has left love, happiness, and hundreds of great stories. However, one of the things he clearly did not leave behind in me is his ability to give speeches. I know everyone here can think of their favorite memory with my dad, and today I'd like to share some of mine. No matter what my dad did, he was smiling. Whether it was going to get me and my best friend Megan donuts every time we had a sleepover, or co-op camping, or going on vacations, or secret ice cream trips that we hid from my mom. He was always happy to do it. For a long time, every weekend, we'd go to movies, and he'd see every childhood movie I ever wanted to see with no second guess. My dad was a great man, and I know that he left a lot of love with all of you. I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet. So finally, one of my favorite things about my dad was the little things he did to make sure me and my brother were okay and taken care of. Like keeping a log of every single bit of maintenance that ever was done on our first car. Even down to getting new windshield wipers. Little things I took for granted because like any kid, I thought he'd be around forever. I will never take lightly the little signs of love anyone shows me again. So cherish every moment you have with your loved ones, no matter how quirky they may seem, because those are the moments that will last forever in your heart.
Well, thank you, Kira. All right, next, I'd like to find out David's brother, Brian.
All right. Among the many thoughts I still hear in David's voice, as I remember how important he has been in my life, his family's life and the life and times of his friends, is in his saying, never let the facts get in the way of a good story. All of you here in front of me, and many who are not able to be with us today, have been either directly involved with the stories of David's life or have heard him tell stories. Perhaps like me, you still hear the joy in his voice that conveyed his love for them and his love for all the people around him. For me, there's no need to embellish the facts of David's life because in every way it was a collection of wonderful moments and experiences. What David did not let get in the way was a negative point of view. His legacy for me is how he could bring out the best aspects of people and circumstances as he told his stories, as he created them with all of you along the way. So there are many stories about his grandfather and grandmother and his mom and dad, and about me and Stephen and Karen as we grew up together, fishing from a canoe at Eagle Lake, swamping our El Toro sailboat in Foster City Lagoon and having David swim out to the rest, and Dave painting a VW Bug and the rest of our garage in Millbrae bright orange. About his childhood friends from the Millbrae Meadows neighborhood. Many of those friends are here with us now or have remained a part of life. Some of those times were echoed in many ways in a book David enjoyed not long before he died called The Life and Times of the Thunderbolt Kid. David laughed out loud numerous times as the author described what it was like to grow up in the 50s and 60s. There are so many stories from his days in Chico, I cannot possibly capture that place, those people, those times, and those times brought to his life. Dave loved everything about every aspect of that experience. So do I, and so do many of you. In fact, some of us loved our Chico Ski Club trips so much that we made a long-term commitment, including prenuptial agreements, to keep those experiences and friendships in our lives. In January, with Tim's leadership, we recently celebrated our 35th annual Guys Trip. Unfortunately, David was unable to be there, but we celebrated with him via Skype. Oh, and then there is falling in love with Sean. The love story and what they have brought forward with their life together and family was clearly David's proudest set of accomplishments. There are more stories. There are stories about people and gatherings of a legendary babysitting co-op that thrives long after those babies have grown up and moved on. It seems to me that what happened among this deeply connected set of friends is mighty rare, but seen through the lens of David's life and his ability to develop friendships, this is an unsurprising outcome. I've heard many tales about David's work life, from selling clothes at the Ritz shop, to selling fancy electronic typewriters at Xerox, to selling an unusual array of medical products, and selling stents and other products for more. Many of David's friends from work are here today to pass along a tale or two. And finally, there are stories of fantastic parties, all kinds of wonderful people, and amazing trips into the wilderness and elsewhere. Now, here is what what all of this has in common. David's love for this life, his love for his family, and his love for his friends. David's joyous celebration of humanity with all its glories and flaws. David's commitment to create and share moments mixed with various combinations of excitement, good fun, and free-flowing humor. When David said, "Never let the facts get in the way of a good story," the intention was obviously humorous, but it was also a commitment. A commitment to follow a path and adopt a perspective that all we can ever have and all we can ever leave behind are the stories we create and share with those we love. And they must be good stories, and we must do all that we can to make that happen, even if some of the facts, like pancreatic cancer, get in the way. We can all see the light in his eyes and hear him laugh when the point or the punchline has been delivered, whether by you or by him, and then see his face as he pondered which story he would share next. Each of you has a story or stories that brought you here today. I am confident that what would please David the most is for you to share them and create more today and hereafter to the delight of others. Thank you.
Well done, Brian. Thank you. Well, next we're going to start with groups, and we're going to invite the, famous co-op group to come up here and tell some tales for us.
So, if you don't mind, people up here play on this plan, slide it back. Actually, my wife and boss of everything consists of you. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for coming. We sincerely appreciate everybody being here. My name is Howard Davis. And I'm Randy Fisher. And we are part of the Babysitting Co-op. So for all of you unfamiliar with Elk Grove, I have to change my glasses. I have the wrong one. The area known as Laguna Creek came into existence in the 1980s. It was mostly populated with young adults, and it was a hotbed for baby making. David and Sean were founding members of what came to be known as the Laguna Creek Babysitting Co-op. The premise was to have people that you know and trust watch your children and to eliminate the cost of a babysitter, as well as the sometimes arduous process of finding someone to do the job. Payment was in the form of points for you if you watched the children and charged to you if your children were watched. Remarkably, what came to be so much more than just babysitting. As time went on, the group grew to over 60 parents and children. Today, although we no longer babysit each other's children, because that would be weird, we still get together for camping trips, progressive dinners, and St. Patrick's Day bunco. We enjoy the Super Bowl together, as well as fireworks on the 4th. We always have our annual Halloween and Christmas parties, and for more than 20 years, we brought in the New Year together with a pajama party. We look at each other as the equivalent of brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, and a whole lot of cousins. In other words, the family that we chose. None of this would have happened without you.
So each month as the co-op went through, there were some requirements. One of them was that we would have, a family would be put in charge and we'd have an activity every month. One of the core principles of this was family-to-family joining, getting kids involved with us and getting them to activities. When it came to activities, David was all in. He would love to go to museums, he'd love to go to the parks and festivals and holiday events. If there was somewhere to go, he would like to plan it, and he normally organized a lot of our activities, especially later on. Dave would get very creative in the kind of places that he would like us all to go to. And as the general rules is, there wasn't a lot of objections unless the wife said so. So David organized several events, and some of them were quite well hits, some of them not so much. One time, for example, David arranged for a trip to the Sacramento Airport Control Tower. The kids loved that. Another time, he organized for us to go visit the local sewer plant. Dave thought that was very cool, the kids not so much. Some of the co-op's holiday events was Halloween or theme parties. We like to have lots of theme parties. Again, David was all in when it came to a theme party. He did some very quirky things, and he would go to great lengths to make the event fun for himself as well for others. One time, I specifically remember a Halloween event, he went out of his way to drill out a bunch of wooden plugs, and he would write tricks on it and hand it out to kids who were too old to be trick-or-treating. His car was egged several times. Also, he had a special cloak made that was specifically designed for him, and he would use that for when he wanted to be a vampire, if he wanted to be a king, if he wanted to be a knight. He was very efficient. Efficiency was important to him, and that cape reflected that. One time he went out and specifically designed, those of you who are young enough to know this, Spaceman Spiff costume with a laser gun. He spent 2 months paper macheing a rhinoceros head hat. At which point then he painted it like red wine so he could walk around calling himself a wino.
It was a pretty good hit, too. Most of you know that David took tremendous pride in the fact that he was an Eagle Scout. And the trait that he most exercised was that of punctuality. If the group had plans for an outing or a project to do, he was ready 10 minutes early. And he wasn't afraid to show us frustration if you were late. He would have the plan drawn up for the execution of the said project, or if he was going somewhere, he'd have his maps for both getting there and proceeding when we were there. David loved his maps. I've sat at many a table, map spread open and watch David and our buddy Tom Rutz salivate while planning the trip. The other Eagle Scout quality he exhibited often was helpfulness. If you needed help, he was there. Yard work, construction, mentoring, David was your guide. Even after his diagnosis, he wanted to help and did in any way he could with whatever he could. As a further tribute to David, please join me here. I would like to recognize the 4 other members of our co-op that have achieved the status of Eagle Scout. They are Mike Sorensen, his son Will Sorensen, Jack Frazier, and Eric Fisher. Additionally, if there are any other Eagle Scouts in this room that I'm not aware of, if you could please join these 4 men in standing to be recognized.
So as we all talked about before, David loved to go camping, and that was a big activity for him. One specific memory I have is that when David wasn't camping, he was always in charge of the fire. He was, yeah, see the co-op people understand. So he was the fire marshal, and in doing a fire with David, there were a lot of rules involved. First rule, no fire until dark, period. Not in the morning, not in the afternoon, dark. The fire area had to be meticulously clean and swept for safety. The fire pit could be built and ready to go, but no fire till dark. Lots and lots of lectures over no plastic in the fire, no matches in the fire, no starter fluid, no flares in the fire. But most important, no fire till dark.
David loved to get together with his co-op brothers to play games. On a regular basis, we would get together for poker games, usually when our wives are out of town together or partying themselves. It was a great time to catch up, even though when we got home and were asked by our wives what we talked about, the answer was nothing. However, the real reason we believe that David enjoyed playing games was so that he could make trophies. David loved to make trophies, and he was very good at it. David would make a trophy for everything. We have a couple of examples. With Laguna Creek High School soccer field being in our backyard, we'd get together and play croquet. We'd mow the lawn, we'd get out there, we'd get teams. Here is the winner's trophy. And in clearly the Times recognition of participation, here's the loser's trophy. We also, a couple of times at one of our co-op men's trips, went out shooting, and he made the pistol trophy as well. Bullets right here, cartridges here. The other game David loved to play was Racco. Racco's a great card game. It's a lot of fun, and it's the perfect card game for sitting around and shooting the breeze. Here's the trophy for the winner for Racco. It's got the cards. If you've anybody here ever play Racco? Well, you know, it's got the cards all splayed out there on that. Every dog wanted to possess this one. He made others too, as you'll see later.
And we will bring these out later somewhere so you guys, if you want to take a look at them. We spent a lot of time on these. David had a very kind heart, and he would do special little things for us as a sign of his affection. One of the most memorable would be to make secret homemade lawn ornaments. Once he would design and he would create, David and his daughter Kira would secretly deliver these to various co-op families and put them in their planter boxes or in the lawn or those kinds of things. He loved to make these things. He has several. He would make plastic ear eggs on a stick. He would have, for St. Patrick's Day, little St. Patrick's guys on a hat. He would make little tiny dragonfly sticks for the springtime fruits. And yes, in the winter he would make little snowflakes for us for Christmas. And then for Halloween, of course, he would make little skulls for us. Initially, it was a great deal of speculation as to where these came from and who did them. David never really actually admitted to doing these activities. I think his wife kind of gave him up here. But it became quite a Kennedy tradition, and it was something that I know David thoroughly enjoyed with Kira, dropping those off at the mall. One thing for sure, he methodically plotted out the delivery route to be most efficient.
The crown jewel of the co-op's men's year was the annual guys trip, referred to by some as the men's conference. Each June, every father that could make the trip, which is usually about 10 of us, enjoyed 4 days and 3 nights of G-rated debauchery. Well, maybe PG. David's mark on the event was huge. We'd fish on whatever lake or stream was near, oftentimes in Dave's canoe. We'd go on mountain and road bike outings after he, Tom, and Paul Adams had completely perused the maps to find the perfect trail. We climbed Donner Peak and Mount Lassen. Yes, all the way to the top. We played golf. He both influenced the choice of food and helped prepare meals, and the meals we had were the thing of beauties. And he told stories. We all did, but his were some of the best. Most of you know that David was in the medical sales field for years. One of his favorite lines was, "Better living through pharmaceuticals." But one of his stories that I'll never forget, and the one which I'll let your minds wander, predated certain things. That was the story about selling and the function of penile implants. And about how God indeed had not created everyone equal. But the biggest and most memorable contribution David made to the guys' trip was, drumroll, the construction of the most important and cherished trophy of all, the guys' trip annual tournament Boulder trophy. This perpetual trophy is wanted by all and will now have more meaning than ever, as there will never be another one like it.
As we mentioned before, David loved to plan trips and travel. And many of us, one time or another, would travel as a group. On occasions, we would take trips to Disneyland together. In fact, one time, when my wife and I and our kids were at Disneyland, David signed up, brought his kids down, and surprised us at the event. We went on several co-op cruises, 4 to be exact, as a group, and he loved to go on canoe trips and plan the canoe trips. We used to do 2 or 3 of those. He also loved backpacking trips. David loved to talk about the backpacking trips he took with scouts and family. One particular trip he mentioned constantly, and it was when he went horseback riding to the Immigrant Wilderness. He would endlessly talk about how much fun it was. He would talk that you were to ride a horse all the way there, a mule will carry your stuff, and it was the best trip you ever had. Every single year, without fail, David would say, "Hey, can we go on a horseback trip? It's time to go on a horseback trip." Finally, one year, Tom, Allie, Paul, Mike, Sean, and I agreed to horseback to Immigrant Wilderness with him. The funny thing was, Dave brought so many supplies, he had to rent an extra mule the whole way. It was not his most efficient moment. It turned out, however, to be a great trip, and it was truly a bucket list item for him, and I enjoyed sharing and reliving that with him. It was a pleasure to be out there. He loved to work, and he loved where he worked. He was positive with every place he got, and he had many stories about it. One place that I would just like to comment on is his last place of employment, Gore. He spoke of it very fondly, and I appreciate everyone in that company that assisted with him. And you folks are fantastic, and I truly appreciate it.
At this time, excuse me for this, I do need to make a personal note. Although all of us in the co-op know each other well, my wife Tamara, our daughter Allie, and I had the added bonus of living next door to David. We had the kind of next door neighbor relationship that folks would give their right arm to have. Our front yards are as one. That is, they're both full gardens, no lawn, with paths that lead to a friendship bridge between our yards, a bridge that David built. Our backyard has a gate through which visiting was made easier, and visiting a lot we did, and of course will continue to do so. We will miss David's laugh coming from over the fence, the sound of him maintaining his backyard with his deep track tunes coming from this receiver, and catching a word or two from the phone conversations he regularly had with his mom. We'll miss sharing a weekend glass of wine or rye whiskey, or a last-minute get-together meal. And we'll miss his presence at Easter and Christmas dinners that we've always shared. We will, however, always have our memories.
So just a final note for myself as well. Sean, you were the glow that warmed David's heart. You were always in his thoughts, and he loved you very much. And then a final word to Connor and Kira. He has always loved and worried with both. That was his way. Connor, he adored you and was very proud of you. He loved to watch you try new things and see how they turned out, even the crazy stuff. The sporting events, which some of them you were not all that good at. The dress up that you would have with Amanda, Taylor, and Allie walking down the stairs. The songs and the shows that Amanda and Allie would convince you to do. The crazy hairstyles, as you all remember. And the pounding of the drums in David's garage. He loved it all. Kira, you are the light of his life and his very special little girl. Probably the happiest moment that I ever saw David was at the courthouse when you were finally adopted. It was one of the best days for all of us, but especially for him. He had his daughter he loved and worried about for all the things.
In closing, Randy and I would please ask if our co-op family could stand. This, folks, is what we're talking about. Sean, Connor, and Kira, this co-op family of yours wants you to know how heartbroken we are for not only your loss, but ours as well. We all love you deeply, and we'll hold the memory of David in our hearts for all our days.
Well, thank you for that wonderful attribution of David. And, you know, I'm reminded also that laugh did go around, and that does give us an amazing story. Well, at this point, we're going to open up now for any other groups of people that would like to come up and share. Who would like to take that risk? Come on up. My name is Tony Hummer from Bill Ray. You can kind of represent Bill Ray and Chief Owens, NYM. A lot of good people that David touched. I was fortunate to have David come into my life very early on. We both attended Sunday school at Millbrae Community United Church. And our lives shadowed each other.
all through our years at Millbrae and on the chief of state. I took me special pride that he took me aside in confidence, told me that I was his most favorite roommate. Sorry to break the news to over very moment. And then our careers, the first couple years, passed together in Fresno. As was mentioned earlier, he was selling Xerox, and I was selling shampoo. And then as our lives continued, we would perhaps see each other 2 or 3 times a year as a whole. We had a Millbrae Love tournament, a golf tournament in Reno and Tahoe. On a few occasions that I had the chance to visit Sean at the house in Elk Grove, I always made a special trip to his office in the house to take a little tour and see what he had on the walls. If any of you had that opportunity, it was hardly a square inch on the walls. It wasn't covered with something that he was considered in his treasure trove of memories. And he was a great photographer. He took that skill on from his grandfather. He would have so many pictures of his family, pictures of friends, little ornaments and whatnot from work and honors. And one thing that we already mentioned earlier today that I took pride in seeing every visit was that he kept his Eagle Scout medal on the wall, and it was important to him. And so I thought, I remember in one of Sean's earlier carrying big devotions, which I replied to one of hers, mentioned something about David's affiliation with Scouting, and he told Scout laws that even though they were written about 100 years ago, I felt like whoever wrote them had David in mind, and I was going to recite them if I can. Or rise my hand, so I apologize to the Eagle Scouts here. I can't do the Scout sign. If you hear the laws, you will think of David with everyone. I think they truly were written with him in mind. So a Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. I think of those all the time. Emily David.
For those who may not know me, I'm Clyde Rawlings. When I thought about getting up here 3 weeks ago and saying a few words about Dave, well, it seemed like a much better idea then. But here we are. So this group is actually part of the Slammers baseball team, and many of us have many connections with Dave Kennedy over the years. If you went to Chico State, you knew him. If you worked with Xerox Corporation, if you played Slammer baseball, or if you were in the babysitting co-op, then all those groups were important in Dave's life. So for us, it was Slammer baseball. And the way it happened was, it was mentioned earlier for you young people out there, we didn't actually have the internet or cell phones to stay together. We physically had to come together. And so to keep the band together, our buddy Craig Beardsley right here said, you know what, I know what we're going to do. We're going to make a baseball team. We're going to call it the Slammers. We're going to meet Tuesday afternoon over beers, and we're going to talk about the details. And that's what we did. We met for beers, indeed. Not a lot of details. We did have to make one important decision, though, because there were lots of different leagues based on your talent and skill level. So there was an A league. Obviously, I think we know what that means. B, C, and D. And so we were all young and aggressive and competitive dudes, and we said, well, let's collectively take a vote and see which league we want to go in. And as you might imagine, we aimed really low.
We went all in for D-League. What we didn't realize about D-League was that even though it worked for us, we didn't realize that the really good teams would form in D-League, and they would hone their skills against clubs like ours, and then they would have to move up in the ranks. Once you won the division, never to be seen again, you had to move up. So for example, we had to play a group called the Meat Cutters Union one day. So I was the pitcher for the team, and some of the balls were coming very close to my dome. And so in between innings, Dave Kennedy comes up and he says, "Clyde," he goes, I think they're aiming at you. I go, "No, some of those balls are close, but I mean, they're just, they're trying to hit me." He goes, "No, I heard them. They are aiming at you." So, we met others along the way. There was another group, ironically, called the Slammers, and we met them in competition. And we found out they were prison guards, okay? So after a 19-2 shellacking, we did what we did best, headed for the clubhouse, where we were going to order some beers afterwards. And so we're talking to the guy in line. He goes, "We're called the Slammers because, we're from Vacaville, and we work at the facility there, and the prisoners, they nickname us the Slammers because we're always slamming the doors and stuff. But, I mean, why on earth are you guys called the Slammers?" And at that precise moment, Kennedy gets to order, and he says, "9 pitchers of Budweiser, please." The man was impressed. We did like our drinking games. We never drank before the game, though we were accused of drinking before the game. But afterwards, we liked to play some drinking games, and sometimes they required a little skill or mental acumen. For example, you'd have to bounce a quarter on the table and then into the beer. But we quickly realized that was too time-consuming, too much effort. So then we just, once again, moved to the lowest common denominator, and we came up with something like this. Would the last person in the room to do this please drink up? That's how that game came to play. So, let's see. It was widely known that Dave was always the nicest guy in the room. It's not that we didn't have other nice guys. I mean, Ron Spino, really, seriously, one of the nicest guys ever. But, after that, it starts to kind of fall off. So just by virtue of being near Dave, he was able to pump us up, and we globbed onto his niceness. So, how do you describe Dave? Well, caring, considerate, compassionate, conscientious. For the rest of the team, those were simply words that began with the letter C. However, for Kennedy, he lived it. And so anytime we were with him, it sort of lifted us all up and made us better men because he was always the nicest guy in the room, no doubt about it. Case in point, what's now become to be known as the John McHugh incident. This was in baseball. Let me set it up. So we didn't win all that often, but we were in this game. We were up by a couple of runs. It was late in the innings, and we were out in the field. So the first 2 guys, unfortunately, they get on base. Now we got to buckle down. It's go time. So I serve up a meatball, and this guy crushes the ball in the deep left center, where we've got Craig Beardsley playing left, and we've got John McHugh playing center. Now, normally, if there's any effort whatsoever on behalf of one of our players, it's meaningful. But to have 2 guys at one time actually make an effort to get to the ball was just unseen. But they did, and they ran at full speed so hard that when they left the ground to catch this ball in deep left center, they hit so hard that Tim Miller, playing catcher, heard it from all the way from behind the plate. It was an incredible collision. But amongst all the limbs and the dust and the dirt and the blood and the beer, up comes, miraculously, Craig Beardsley with ball in hand. He's caught the ball. So he fires it into Dave Kennedy, who knows how to play baseball. So he is perfectly positioned to take the cutoff. He turns to rifle it home, and then, incredibly, instead, throws the mitt on the ground with the ball still in the mitt and runs full speed out to save his hurt comrade. Now we're furious with Kennedy. We are demanding that he return to his post. But he doesn't. No. He goes out there, he helps McHugh up, he's obviously hurt. And the rest of us, the only thing we can do, I mean, the damage was done. The damage was done. We just sat there and watched as Dave walked this guy off of the field by himself, gets him to the dugout, and then, of course, we can't field enough guys, so we have to have Kennedy come back to play the rest of the game. McHugh was actually forced to arrange his own ambulance drive. Yeah, so he actually had to make arrangements to get himself to the hospital. If the rest of the team's reaction on this seems a little bit inconsiderate, uncaring, uncompassionate, just remember, after all, in our defense, 2 runs did score. There's that. Afterwards, of course, a couple of beers into it, all was forgiven. And everything was good. But about that time, we got word that, in fact, John McHugh had broken his femur. Yeah, true story. So the rest of us were shocked at this, but not Kennedy. No, he didn't have a smug look, but he had a look of full vindication. Dave was never a gloater, did not gloat, but once again, we all got pulled up just a little bit by virtue of his niceness. So, anyway, there's another story. When we tallied up, all in all, we played 30 seasons, multiple seasons per year, 8-game seasons. And Kennedy never missed one. He was part of the core group, even though we had dozens and dozens of people that came in and out of the group. He was always there every time. And so as the injuries, though, the major injuries started to kind of pile up, there were many minor ones. But for example, Matt Havelock broke his ankle. Craig Beardsley, our own Craig Beardsley, miraculously jumping over the opponent to land on home base, but with his elbow on the plate, crushed his elbow in several places. He was safe. The aforementioned female, and then yours truly, who stupidly slid into second and turned my left arm into a pretzel. It was at that time when Dave Kennedy, being the nice guy and the observant guy, suggested that perhaps we form a bowling league. He was roundly castigated for that entire thing. I mean, it was just like heresy. What are you talking about? Separately and individually, we all asked, what do you know about that bowling league thing? So that was kind of coming, I guess, to the end of our careers. And so what we needed something else to be able to stay in touch and keep that connection going even after our sports careers were over. And one of the things that crept into that early on was one of the early Chico, Xerox, slammer names, Mark Canez, who was going to try and be here today from Portland, but unfortunately he's out of the country. But he started about 5 years in. He said, you know what, we never get together over the off season. So maybe it would be really cool if we got together a few days before Christmas and we had a little Christmas dinner. And so we started that tradition. And that tradition went on long after softball. And we called it the Slammer Fest. And it was one of the only ways that we were able to get together and get all the wives together over the years. So now 27 consecutive dinners that we've done that. And this year, I suspect once again that we will be meeting at Silva's Inn for dinner a few days before Christmas. Of course, Sean will be there. I don't know if she wants to go. It won't really be her choice. We're not both kidnapping. But this year, for the very first year ever, in the spirit of the missing man formation, there will be an empty seat. At the table. And sometime during the evening, we'll raise our glasses and toast our dear, dear friend, Dave Kennedy, always and forever the nicest guy in the room.